Hello everyone and welcome to NovaTime University. Today we're going to talk about the NovaMobile app. We're very pleased to have Steven Phelps on the line who's going to walk us through both registering your mobile app as well as using the app. So Steve, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, I'm going to turn it over to Steve and he's going to take it from here.
Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the initial setup for the mobile app on the website, creating the news record, creating the function keys, configuring the access group. We'll have some screenshots for you there. And then we'll go through and register a phone and then show you the navigation within the app. And I've got an actual live demo on my phone that I can use here to show you guys. I have it mirrored to another computer right now. So we'll go through a couple of the different functions that are there, punching, transfers, PTO requests, and then I'll also touch on switching between employee and user profiles. So if you have one of the things in the 5000 app is that if you have an employee profile and a supervisor or administrator profile linked to each other, you can switch between them within the app just by going through a couple different button presses, key presses on the phone. So to get started, so the news page essentially is what all devices within the database are, how they're configured. So you have to add a record into the database in order for these devices to connect and communicate with the database. And the same is true for clocks. Mobile app works exactly the same way as a clock does essentially. So you create the record, which is just a device ID, the device type, which in this case is NovaMobile, the description, usually just NovaMobile device or employee devices, however you want to describe it, doesn't matter. And then the time zone. Now the time zone typically with the mobile app is irrelevant. The news record requires it, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be based off of the access group that's configured for the users that are using it. So, and we'll get into that a little bit later when we go through the configuration. So the news record actually is created here on the news tab. So you go to news security. And that's where you would create and add the record for the phone. You only need to add the one record, and then once you have the record created, you can go into the hardware devices function key templates area to create the function keys. Now the function keys are what the phone will use when you have the app launched to display whatever buttons you want visible to the employee or to the user. And the buttons themselves will change depending on the access group that they're assigned to. So when we go through the actual access group configuration, I'll show you that. And this is what the news page looks like when you're on the security. So you add the device ID, the device type, description, client ID, etc. The username and password will be blank. You don't need to worry about that. You will not be able to edit it when you create the record for the mobile app. It will not require one because you're going to be using the individual logins for either the employees or for the users the same as they would if they were accessing it via the web. And that's another important part that we'll touch on later. And this is what the function key template page begins with. So it gives you the template description, the clock type. The clock type is going to be NovaMobile. Employee or supervisor on the clock type dropdown. Type in the description, choose your desired function keys, and then save it. Once you have that saved, you go over to the Access Mobile page. The mobile page typically is not available unless it gets added to the access groups access before. So normally if you were to go to the access groups area, you may not see the mobile tab there. You may have to turn it on first before you're able to see it because it's off by default. So when you turn it on, you go to this page, you flag the Allow Mobile Access button, you authenticate using username, social security number, employee ID, however you want to have it configured. Now the authenticate using will change depending on the access group that you choose. So if you're set up for administrator access, you're pretty much going to be using the username. Employee access, you can use the employee ID, social security number, etc. And then from there you choose the function key template. And that's where we have you create the function key template first, because otherwise when you click on this it'll be a blank drop down. So once you have the function keys created, it'll list there the function keys that are allowable by that access group. So you're not going to see all of them. You're only going to see the ones that that particular access group can use. So if you're setting up an administrator, you're not going to see the employee function keys. If you're setting up an employee, you're not going to see the supervisor or administrator function keys. And then you go into the registration portion of it. So you download the app from the Android store or the iPhone store. It's the blue icon, not the orange icon. The orange icon is the old 4000 app. It's not the one you want to use at this point. You're going to use the blue one. It's called NovaMobile. If you search for NovaMobile either in the iPhone store or the Google Play Store, it'll come up. It should be the top result when you search for NovaMobile. So then you go through and you type in the client ID, your login ID, your password, and then it's going to prompt you for the registration. It's going to say, okay, where do you want to send this validation code? And I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like real quick. So I already have mine set up here. My login, my demo database that I'm using, I hit next. It'll take it a second to connect to the database. Pardon the lag here a little bit. My phone updated before the screen did. And then you have the device registration. So right now, for my user profile, I only have my email address associated with it. I don't have a phone number attached to it. If you have a phone number attached to it, it'll give you the choice. So you can choose either to send it via email or send it via phone. If you want to have it sent via a text message, you have that option. Then you hit next, and the system will send you a security code. Bear with me here just a second. Let me grab the code. Here it is. So once I have that typed in, I'll hit finish, and it logs me in. So right now I'm set up on my supervisor profile, so I have access to, if I wanted to view timesheets, approve time off, etc., I can go through any one of these particular functions. Now, if I wanted to switch to my employee profile, I just hit the little hamburger icon, the little 3 bars at the top left corner, and it gives you this little sub-menu, and I choose myself. And that switches me over to my employee profile. And from here I can punch, transfer, request time off, view my own timesheets, etc. Whatever function keys you allow based on the function key template that you configured before, that's what will show up here. Same goes for the supervisor profile. So you can switch back and forth. So after you get your registration, it'll look similar to what we just showed. And you can go ahead and do the punches. It will give you a success message. It will give you the timestamp for the time that you punched based on the access group. So if the access group is configured for Eastern time, it's going to show Eastern. If it's West Coast, it'll show West Coast, etc. The same goes for transfers. Transfers are also going to give you that success message. Now when you do a transfer, it will require you to enter the group that you're going to use. So if I were to do a transfer, the group has to be configured for the function key. So for mine right now, it's set up for job. Now if I tap inside of here, it's going to give me the options that I have that, for the groups that exist on that group level. I can just choose it, hit punch, and it's going to, now if I have GPS set up, it's going to ask me this question. Cannot retrieve current location because I have location services turned off. Do I want to punch without location? I'll go ahead and say yes. And you can disable that if you have it so that it's set up for GPS lockouts. You can make it so that it will not allow the punch to go through if they're locked out without location services enabled. And that gives you the OK, and you can go back. Now, requesting time off is going to look similar to this here. You're going to go in, you're going to choose your template, which is going to be the pay code that you're going to use, whether it's vacation or sick time. If your vacation time is set up with a specific hour amount, that can be configured. And then you're going to select your date. Your time range, more or less, is irrelevant. You can put it in there. You don't have to. You can just put in for the total amount of hours that you want, and then you can submit. It's going to give you a notice saying request submitted was successful, and you just click OK. Same as what we can do here. I'll show you what that looks like. So if I request time off, my current is set up for 4.5 hours. It automatically enters the 4.5 hours in there. If I were to switch it to a 0-hour template, It'll change it to 0, and I can enter in the amount of hours I want to select. I can select the dates here, brings up the calendar. You can enter in multiple dates there if you have multi-day enabled, and then type in the amount of hours I want. I want to put in 8 hours for that day. Do I want to confirm? Yes. And request submitted. This will also, if you have it configured, it will send a notification to the supervisor that the request was submitted, and they can actually go and click on a link to enable that, to approve or decline that request. Now, obviously, there are a lot of functions here that we can go through within the app. I don't know if anyone has any specific questions or they want to go through anything in particular that we can demo, but since I have the live demo going, we can go through pretty much anything you guys want to. It is fully functional at this point. Right now I'm running a version that's unreleased. It's not the icons will actually look a little bit different for you when you have it downloaded, so don't worry about that. It also will look a little bit different depending on whether you're using an iPhone or Android. The function keys will essentially operate the same. You're not going to see any discrepancies there, but it will obviously look a little bit different depending on how you have it configured and what version you're running. The current version that's released is 2.3, and that's what my icons actually are from 2.4. So you're going to see a little bit different when you look at yours.
So there is a question, is the setup different for NovaMobile in the Windows app?
As far as the phones are concerned, the setup is the same on the web. You won't need to worry about anything in that regard. It's essentially the same deal. You just set it up with the news record. Everything is going to be using the news record, and everything is going to be based off of the access groups. The only difference is going to be basically how it looks, I would imagine. I haven't actually seen the Windows version of it, the Windows mobile app version. I've only seen the iPhone and the Android. They look almost identical. I mean, obviously there's minor differences, like with the settings page, with navigation, that kind of thing. But as far as functionality is concerned, it's going to be the same.
Okay. Rob, I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question directly.
Okay. I guess I had someone who had asked me from a supervisor standpoint. A lot of times you have the icons, and if you get a notification in that application, there's a little number, okay, on that icon. Typically, I think in iPhone, it's a kind of a red number, and it will increment if there are additional notifications. So is that something that from a supervisor standpoint, something that the mobile app is capable of doing?
You're referring to the website or to?
No, to the mobile app. In other words, if you look at it, in other words, it wouldn't be in the application, but on your phone, looking at the icon, just the NovaMobile icon. Okay. I can't
kind of like when you
okay.
I know. Have email notifications, it tells you how many
before you have it, right before you have it actually
before
launched.
You even open it. Yeah.
Right. No, I haven't seen that at all. The only notifications that you would get will probably be via either text or via email. So like right now, I submitted a time off request. So I got this.
Okay. Now, is that notification from your submission as an employee, or is it a notification to a supervisor?
It's a notification to a supervisor because the employee requested it. So it essentially sent me a notification message via an alert, almost looking like a text. And it gave me the option of going directly to the request to either approve or decline it.
Okay.
And it did that via my phone.
Okay. I'll have to check that again. I had tried to do that just the other day and didn't get success there. So, but maybe I did something wrong. So I'll go.
Now, are you using an iPhone or using Android or using Windows?
Android?
Android. Okay.
Android.
Okay. Yeah, you should, as long as you're set up with Now, I don't have my phone number associated with this in any way, so the
Right.
notification is likely coming through the app when the app is launched because I have it linked to my my user profile as well. So my employee and my user profiles are linked. So when I submit the request, because the employee is assigned to that user, that supervisor, the notification comes through the app, and it just pops up with an envelope similar to how like a text message would appear on an Android. If you're using an iPhone, it may look a little different. I use Android about 90% of the time, and I haven't really messed with or seen the notifications for iPhone on that, but if you're using the Android and you have it set up the way that I have mine, you should see the same thing.
Okay.
And that goes for 2.3 as well. I was seeing the same thing in 2.3 before I updated to our current unreleased version. So
Okay.
it's not a new feature in 2.4.
I did have one other question, and I can type it in.
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So in your template in the web application for
Mm-hmm.
mobile or an employee, there is an option for I think you have basically swipe and go. There's an option for punch in and punch out.
Right?
Uh, if I were to utilize punch in and punch out, and I didn't punch in for the day, okay, and I use the punch out button, does it commit that to the punch out for the day? Does
Yes.
that make sense?
It operates the same way that the clocks would if you had an actual physical clock and you had punch in and punch out. The swipe and go applies the punch to the timesheet based on the previous punch. So if you had already a punch in, the next punch would go to out. Now if you're using
Okay.
in and out, it's hard set. That out will always be out, that in will always be in. So if
Okay.
you have somebody that's using in all the time, they're going to have a bunch of punch ins, and they're
I
not
got
going
you.
to, you're going to have to basically resort the punches. But
Okay.
yes, you can do that as well.
All right. That was my question. Thanks.
How do we turn on the mobile for access, for the access page?
That, you know what, I don't have it on this. I wouldn't be able to show you, but I can talk you through it. If you go to access, you go to list, you choose the access group that you want to adjust. You'll be able to go into the page access or the modules and flag the mobile button for that particular access group. You'll want to then go back in, I think it's just under access list. So you go into access list, you select the access group, it'll give you the checkbox for all of the different pages that they can see and all the tabs they can see. You check mobile there, you go to page access under access mobile at that point and give them full access to it instead of read-only, and make sure that they have full access to it. But it's under the access row. So when you have the access group selected, you'll see all of the different rows for the different pages that the different tabs they can see basically. And as long as they can see access, you just go across all the way to the end and you'll see the mobile checkbox and it'll be unchecked. You just check that box, and then from there you'll want to make sure that they have full access to the page itself, which is under the page access tab. I wish I could kind of show it to you. Unfortunately, I don't have my link to my 5000 database on this particular PC that I'm using. Otherwise, I would show you what it looks like. But that's essentially what you do. You just turn that on. And of course, if you have any problems where you don't see it or you can't get it turned on, you can always call into hardware support and we can go through that and make sure it's enabled.
Yeah, so hardware support is the 909-895-8100. I think it's extension 4
Yes, it's
for
option 4
hardware.
when you call in. Mm-hmm.
Okay, option 4. Okay, Lucy, I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question. Go ahead.
Hi, Steve. I wanted to find out, can you show me how I go about setting up a team, like for the team punch?
Yeah, let me see. Let me make sure that that's...
Because I have
So
the test application, and for some reason I'm missing some buttons.
you go into your settings on the phone. Should be the same for iPhone and Android. And you go down here where it says enable passcode. So right now passcode is set to off. You just hit that and you enable it. and then when you enable it, it's going to ask you to type in the passcode that you want to use.
I was actually talking about like the team punch, how
Oh,
like
Team
a
Punch?
manager goes about setting up a team, and then how you go about clocking them in and out.
Okay, when you access Team Punch, it's going to give you these buttons here, Scan Punch or Add Team. You're
Okay.
probably going to want to go through and add team first, because right now I have no team set up. So
Okay.
you go to Add Team, and then you select the employees that you want. Now, if you want to select all of them, you just select all of them, and then at the top, you type in the team name that you want. You know,
Okay.
say test team,
Okay.
whatever. Once you have them all selected, you hit Save, you name your team. The team has been updated.
Okay.
Okay, and then it'll give you the team name at the top that you created with the number of employees that you have assigned to it. You select it, and then
Okay.
from here you can either punch or transfer. Now, here's an important piece. In order for the transfer to work, you actually have to enable a particular setting in I want to say it's an EWS setup.
Okay.
Here's another reason why I wish I had my link. There's a particular setting in EWS setup that you have to configure for function keys, otherwise these buttons won't actually show up properly, specifically transfer.
Okay.
The punch should show up regardless, but transfer will not unless you have that configured.
And see, on my application, neither one of the buttons are showing up.
Yeah, so
I get this far.
you're missing the setup. So we're going to go to, might be under company setup. Yeah, here it is. This is what you need. Under
Okay.
company setup, system setup, EWS F key. You see how there's nothing here?
Yeah.
This is where those buttons get pulled from. It's kind of a bizarre setup the way that it's configured, but that's essentially what it is. So you go in, position 1, code, do transfer or swipe and go,
Perfect.
and then position 2, put in your transfer button that you want, if those are the options you want there, and you save that. And then when you log back in and you go into your team punch, you'll have those buttons available to you.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so
That's
much.
where
Those
those
are the ones I was missing.
Yep, no problem. And then you kind of show you, since we have it here available to us now, show you what it looks like to configure the mobile tab. Make sure you have it enabled. So when you go to access list, you're going to select the particular access group that you want. Here we go, administrator. So you click on that particular access group that you want to modify. And this is the page that I was referring to, where you have all the buttons. So when you go down to the access area, right here, all the way over here on the right, you have mobile checked. That's what you're looking for. You want to check that for the access group, and then after you have it checked, you'll want to go into page access and make sure that you have full rights to it. So you go over here to page access, go to access, and then under access where it says access mobile, you come across over here. Right now it says not allowed. You hit full access. And then you'll be able to get to the access mobile page, which shows up here. The next time you log in, you will have to log out and log in. If you make a change to this page here, you will have to log out and log back in to see it and have access to it. Okay,
we do have another question. Does time distribution by groups work with the mobile app? So are you talking about can an employee distribute their time using time distribution, or a supervisor change just the group values on the timesheet? Which one?
Yeah, so what we have is we have a company that they're a prospect, and they would like their employees to be able to just punch in at the beginning of a period and punch out, and they're doing dirty work, and so they can't be switching between departments while they're actually on the shift. But then afterwards, they punch out, and then they redistribute that time.
Okay. Do they use time distribution below the timesheet to do that?
So that's what we're going to enable. So this is as I said, this is a prospect that we're asking about doing this, and we haven't done the time distribution with any of our clients yet.
Okay.
So can they do that on the mobile?
To my knowledge at this point, no.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that we should probably stress is that the mobile app is not designed to replace employee web services, so it's not going to be able to do everything that the website can do. It's essentially there for convenience. It'll do a lot of the stuff that you'll see on the mobile app or the website, and a good rule of thumb is that if you see it in the mobile app, you can do it on the website, not necessarily vice versa. The only thing that I don't know if it's helpful at all, but the only thing I would suggest doing maybe is just having them do transfers via their phone instead while they're actually working, because it is fast enough that they would be able to do that instead of having to do any kind of distribution after the fact. You could have them doing transfers while they're working. If that's not an option and they need to do distribution afterwards, then they probably will need to use the website to do that at the end of the day.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And before we go to Lucy's next question, I do want to ask you, Steve, to stress the importance of registering on the mobile app, on the web app before trying to log in.
Yeah, there are a couple things that you'll notice that you'll run into problems if you don't do things 100% in the right order with the right setup first. So there are a couple things you need to make sure you have. On your employee profiles, you need to, and the same for your users, you need to make sure that you have either an email address or a phone number associated with those on their personal tabs. So right now, this particular employee is blank. So the email and phone numbers are blank, so if they try to register on the mobile app, they're going to get an error. And unfortunately, right now, the error is not specific. It's more of a system error that you'll see. It's kind of a generic thing. I'm hopeful that we're going to, we're talking to our devs to try to get the error to be a little bit more specific to explain what the problem actually is when they try to register if they have this kind of a situation. But as long as you have an email address or a phone number, either one, and it works in number 1 or number 2, not necessarily in any particular field, but as long as you have something in there, you'll be able to get the validation code. The same goes for the users. They need to have something set up in there. The second thing is they need to have a password configured. So, and if you're using any kind of self-service logins, the self-service passwords don't work. You have to actually go in here to the profile and create a password. And the same goes for users. If they do not have a password, you're going to get another one of those bizarre errors on the app. And you're not going to quite know what that means. It's going to just say system error, something of the sort. And you'll probably end up calling us and we'll say, okay, well, did you set up your password? And you're like, well, I have a password, but it's, through self-service, etc. No, you have to actually go into the profile itself for the employee or for the user and create a password. Now, if you're creating an employee for the first time, a blank employee, essentially, if they just go to the website, the EWS site, where they would access their timesheet, request time off, etc. via the web, the first login is going to ask them to create a password to begin with. So you don't necessarily need to do that for them. They can just go to the site and create it. Now, if you don't give your employees access to those pages, when you create the profile, you will want to create the password for them and just give them a temporary login to use. But if they don't have that set up prior to trying to register their mobile phones, they will see an error. Same goes for users. That is something you will need to make sure you have configured.
So just to reiterate, set that up on the website first, then register the mobile app. Okay, Lucy, your turn.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
So I wanted to find out, as an administrator, how do we go about setting up the GPS locator or the coordinates to be a required setting when the employees register?
Okay, so there's 2 parts to this. Now, are you planning on setting it up for like an address for the groups, like so that they can do like automatic transfers, or are you just trying to set it up so that they can have GPS lockouts enabled so they can't punch without GPS turned on?
Yeah, they can punch in and out without it being turned on.
Okay. So you go, when you're in the Access Mobile area here,
Okay.
we may actually have to log out and log back in because I think you didn't have access to this, but let's see. Let's just go to the generic employee access here because it's going to look a little different if you do it for admins. So if you have this turned on, you have your, oh, see, we don't have a function key set up here, but let's see. Right down here where it says Enable GPS Location Tracking,
Okay.
that's the first step. You need to have that turned on. That makes it so that it'll track their GPS location when they try to punch. and you can enable GPS lockout based on location. Now, this by itself will not necessarily do anything for you. You need to go in and actually, now if you don't have any addresses set up, you're going to have a problem because you just locked out everyone. So once you turn this on, and this is the other important piece of this, is the radius. You can have that set to a fraction. So if you need to have that set to a certain lower decimal, below a mile, you can. Obviously, the lower you go, the more strict it becomes, and the more often you're going to get false positives. So I've already had support calls where people are saying, well, this person's literally standing in the building that we have an address configured for, and they can't punch. They go, okay, well, you have the radius set to 0.01 miles. So they're literally going to need to be standing exactly at the coordinates that you configured. So you're going to want to make sure that you have that set to a radius that's decent enough that the phone, because the phone, you have to realize too, it's not precise. It gives you a radius on the phone too. So it's basically saying, okay, you're anywhere inside of this circle. They don't know exactly. They can't pinpoint you. So as long as your radius is, I would probably say, above 0.3 miles, you're probably okay. I wouldn't go much lower than that. A quarter mile might be pushing it.
Yeah,
But once you have that configured, so you have that saved, the next part of it is going over here where it says use the setting here at company setup, system setup, general group. So when you go, and you have to have this turned on, because if you don't have it enabled, you may not see the fields that we need. So we have that saved. So you go to company setup, system setup, general group. So go over here to general and go to group setup. And right down here it says GPS location group. So this is where you define which group level has the addresses assigned to the groups. So you would say, okay, I want to have, G1 set up as, where all of my addresses are going to go. So once you have that saved, now you actually have to go into the group level and then configure the individual groups to get the addresses. So then you go into company setup, groups, and I'm going to go to group 1, and I'm going to select my first group here, and in here you have the GPS location fields. So you can actually type in an address or you can type in specific coordinates and hit search. So if I were to just type in our address here at the office, and hit search, automatically fills in the coordinates, pops in the map, and now I can hit save. So anytime that I'm within this particular group level here, I'll be able to punch. Any group that does not have an address assigned, basically, if you're outside of the radius now, if I try to use this and I'm assigned to this access group, if I'm not where I am right now, I can't use it. I'll be locked out.
Okay.
And there's another portion of that. You can actually set it up so that when you have them in those areas and they perform a punch, this auto transfer option here, when they perform a punch, it'll automatically put that particular group on their timesheet. And it does it automatically, so they don't actually have to perform a transfer. They just do a punch, and you go to their timesheet, and it'll say, okay, their G1 level is fund at this location, automatically. And then if they move from that location to another one, they punch, you'll see the same thing on the timesheet. Automatically does it for them.
That's nice.
Okay.
I like it. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so Rob, do you want to make your comment here?
Yeah, well, I had run into this particular issue a while back where I wanted to require that the employees enable GPS on their phone, but the client did not, they didn't want to restrict them. They had a mobile workforce, okay, so they didn't have a central office, a lot of people working out of their homes, so they didn't want to, set up individual home locations.
Sure.
So I ended up, I think the maximum on this is it 999? The radius?
It is, but what you don't need to do in your situation is you don't need to check this box.
Well, but then it doesn't require them to have, it allows them to punch if they don't have GPS turned off.
that was recently changed. So that was one of the things that was updated, and the verbiage on the website should also reflect that. This actually changed here. Instead of saying just enable GPS location tracking, it actually said something different before. What that button does is it actually makes it so that you cannot punch without GPS enabled. So I know the verbiage isn't entirely clear, but that's what that option does. So if you have that button checked and you have GPS turned off on your phone, you won't be able to punch.
And when was that put in?
It was, I don't know the specific date. It was a while ago. It's been being tested for quite some time. I think it's been, I would think probably over a month, maybe 2 months.
Yeah, that was my only.
Doug, you want to ask your question?
Sure. I've got location set up as Group 2, and I'm regularly importing new locations into that group level for labor tracking. If I've got GPS location setting turned on, can I include the address as part of that import so that the client doesn't have to go in each time and edit or add the address to those groups that I've added?
I'm not sure if that's an option right now. I'm not sure where you would put that in on your import, if that's one of the fields that we can have added. I'm going to make a note of this real quick because I think that you can't do that right now, but I want to find out if it's going to be possible or if maybe there's something that I'm not aware of. So importing groups. Now, do you want it with GPS coordinates or a specific address?
Specific address would work because then a refresh of that area would give you the location or the GPS settings.
Okay. I made a note of that to try to find that information out.
Well, this has been great. I think it's been helpful for everybody. If you haven't already been aware, if you're in NovaTime 5000, make sure that your supervisors especially know about this help button. It's far more helpful than it's been in the past. Right now, the help page, and it has always been page sensitive. So depending on what page you're on here, when you click help, it's going to take you to a related page on the help setup. But if you go up here to Chapter 1 Introduction and Where Do I Get Help, this is a list of videos that we're trying to keep current with the videos that are on our ongoing education page as well. All of these videos link a YouTube link, so if your organization has restricted YouTube access, this might not be helpful. But we have short videos of specific tasks that are involved. Anything that's 43 minutes to an hour is probably a webinar that's been recorded and posted here. So if your supervisors don't have access necessarily to the ongoing education page, this is another resource. The list of videos here are a little bit more restricted, fewer videos are posted on this as there are on the ongoing education page. We are attempting to, our goal is to break this Where Do I Get Help out into its own chapter that says training videos, so it's more obvious what's there as well. But also the release notes, this is new. The release notes for what's new, what's fixed are going to be posted right here under the release notes. So watch for that as well as we move forward. Last call for any questions that we have before we call an end to this session. You've been great, great questions, great content, Steve. I appreciate your help and your input here.
Not a problem.
Okay, everyone, but I appreciate your time. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for coming.